You're our local member. What an absolute privilege it is to be back in Nimbin with you in a time of celebration as opposed to a time of crisis, which is probably the only time in the last few years that you and I have actually seen one another here. So can I acknowledge you? Can I acknowledge that Steve was going to be here, your local mayor? Can I acknowledge the brigade executive, the brigade leadership? Can I acknowledge the fact that we've got our emergency services partners, we've got our policing partners here? Importantly, we've got community members here and we've got award recipients here. Now, ladies and gentlemen, seeing the roll up here today is really indeed something that is quite special for me. Max let it out of the bag that Nimbin is my hometown and that it is very important for me and quite humbling for me to be here as the Deputy Commissioner of the Rural Fire Service to acknowledge 70 years of the Nimbin Rural Fire Brigade, the Nimbin Rural Fire Service, and whatever other iterations of nomenclature that it went through that Brad referenced. One of the things that led me to here, and that is a little daunting, is that as Brad and I saw one another about a year ago, and he said, "Cole, look, would you be interested in coming to a 70th anniversary celebration for the Nimbin Fire Brigade?" I said, "Indeed, brother, I would. Can you make sure that Rob Rogers doesn't know about it?" Now, Rob's our commissioner. Rob would normally be at these events, and I'm going to say, without him actually knowing he's doing it, he apologises for not being here today, right? But please don't tell him that I offered that apology for him, because he actually doesn't know that the brigade is 70 today, because this is my hometown, if you haven't heard me say that already. One of the things that I like to do in events like this is to reflect just for a moment on the importance of what these events are all about. Indeed, in the busyness of what it is that's the life of police and emergency services, it is critical that at a point, 1 or 2 or 3 times through the year, we put a full stop in our calendars and we celebrate what it is that we do as an agency. And in events like this, that celebrate particular milestones of agencies, indeed, it's important that we reflect on the history and the origins of the brigade. Now, it's important that I set the record straight on a couple of things that Bradley talked about. Indeed, the brigade has a fairly auspicious history. And what most of you won't know is that old farrier's shed, blacksmith shed in Cecil Street, was right next when it had its initial hit out. And Pawpaw, the old Zephyr truck, became something of a bit of a play place for one Kyle Stewart. Now, please don't tell my mother that I did this, because she forbade me from doing it. But one of the things that occurred, Bradley talked about the testing of the siren 5 days a week. There might have been a few extra times through the week that siren got tested. But that siren was an important part of the Nimbin orthodoxy and practice of the fire brigade, so I learned very quickly as about a 6-year-old. The door from our yard into the fire brigade shed was never locked. There was a telephone in Nimbin fire brigade shed that would ring, and my mum Daisy had the responsibility at times of going and answering the phone. And the fire would be reported, and Daisy's job then was to make the phone call to Bill Henson or to Eric Bazana, or, to my very great pleasure, push the button that rang that siren. How awesome was that? And that was the sign to each of the fire brigade folk in town to come a-running. Now, if Bill or Eric got to the truck first, I think, Max, you've already described what it is that was the recruitment campaign that was the immediate one. The truck made its way directly to the Freemasons Hotel, and whomever was available at the time was immediately inducted, work health safety provisions aside, onto the back of the truck, and they found their way with those 3 leather knapsacks or 3 leather beaters to wherever it was the fire at that particular point. Now, Bradley failed to talk about the various successes and non-successes of the Nimbin Fire Brigade. One of the things that I have a very fond memory of is that as about a 6 or 7-year-old, that siren went off one night in Cecil Street, and out the front of our house I went, and it was always so exciting to see the fire truck roll out to wherever that fire was. The fire that particular night was exactly 8.5 metres to the north of the fire brigade. That house burnt completely down. Now I just wondered about the efficacy of that old truck and the ability for us as a fire brigade to get what we needed to get done at that particular time. But a few years later, I found myself as one of the many street urchins post Aquarius Festival in Cullen Street, Nimbin, with Bradley Soward and probably Charlie. I reckon you were there at a particular time, a little bit of a different sort of generation. But we were in the street when we saw Paul rolling out to a fire in up the top of Gungus Road. And again, please don't tell my mother that I did this because she forbade me from doing it. But my bike was immediately at hand. And so what does a 9-10-year-old in Nimbin do at that particular time when you see the fire truck rolling up Gungus Road? Well, you get on your bike and you follow the truck, which Bradley, I think I beat to the fire. So folks, I have a very fond memory of this place as my home. I have a very fond memory of the part that the Nimbin Fire Brigade and what are the iterations they followed it played in what it is that's the core of community for towns like Nimbin. Wherever you go in a community like this, and it holds true for Nimbin, you will find, let's call it Big Red 3, Brad, right? You'll find Big Red 3 at the heart of whatever it is, it's a community engagement event, or at that environment where the community is in need of service. So you see just a little bit of the history that Brad talked about, and a few of the little anecdotes that I can offer up as someone very close to the township of Nimbin of what it is that's the importance of the fire brigade and what it is that has been the very great developments of the Nimbin Fire Brigade, from the 3-leather beater environment through to the sophisticated professional firefighting service that it is today. Now let me just expand on some of the history that it is beyond that the 2001 period. That was the time at which the fire brigades Janelle talked about were amalgamated into the New South Wales Rural Fire Service. Under a piece of legislation, we became the New South Wales Rural Fire Service. And with that, we fundamentally changed. And so that piece of kit that you see over there as the firefighting truck for the principal firefighting appliance for Nimbin is represented in about 4,000 other appliances across the state. We are now a community and a family of 75,000 volunteers of the New South Wales Rural Fire Service. 45,000 of those volunteers are active firefighters. Today, at this very moment, we have got 700 firefighters on 80 fires across the state, 24 of which are uncontained right now. Now, the Nimbin Brigade truly understands what the dynamic of that particular support in the community is, because I know that over the course of the last several weeks, you've been operating on fires to the west of here, out and around Kyogle. The dynamic of what it is that you do as a fire service in support of your community should not be lost in the fact that over in Benalbo and that particular area at Bean Creek, we sadly lost one of our firefighters who succumbed to what it is that was the pressures, not during direct firefighting activities, but he succumbed to what it is that was the challenges that were imposed upon him as he was endeavouring to support the community out there. So folks, we just recognise that what it is, it's the true nature of volunteer firefighting. It is a critically dangerous thing to do, and indeed the professionalisation of our organisation absolutely is a critical thing. We can no longer be that environment that picks up firefighters from the pub. It is reflected in the professionalism that is the Nimbin Fire Brigade and what it is that you do. I get the language wrong, right? I'm still Nimbin Fire Brigade, but the Nimbin Rural Fire Service. Over the course of the last several years, 2019, 2020 fires saw an incredible amount of demand and imposition imposed upon this place and places like it. We rolled into support for our SES brothers and sisters. We rolled into support for New South Wales Health when we had to respond to COVID. We rolled into then more support for our SES flood brothers and sisters. This year, the New South Wales Rural Fire Service, and some of you may be in the crowd here, but I'm not quite sure of it, but this year we have deployed 700 of our firefighters to Canada. 700 of our firefighters to Canada, such as the expertise that the uniform you wear, the uniform that I wear, can offer not only the state of New South Wales, the country of Australia, but internationally those environments that have fire risk that are very similar to us. So just think about the dynamics of what it is. It's the very incredibly professional organisation that we are a part of and that you represent. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to acknowledge some long service from those of you that are members of the Nimbin Rural Fire Brigade. Now, one of the things I want to say to you, ladies and gents, when you are called forward, and Janelle and I have an opportunity to present you with what it is that's your award, just know that the acknowledgement that you get, that little bit of trinketry that you get today really does represent a significant amount of service. It represents all those frightening and fun times that you've been a part of whilst you've been a member of the Rural Fire Service. So as you get an opportunity throughout the course of your remaining life as a member of this particular community and as a part of the Rural Fire Service, and you get an opportunity to wear your bling, bloody will do it. Why? Because you have just deserved it. Folks, it is an honour to be here. It's a little bit daunting because I do see Judy Soward in the crowd. You know, it's kind of weird for me to call her Judy. She was always Mrs. Soward. I see Greg in the crowd. He always Mr. Soward. So I feel a little bit disrespectful, but I'm going to say, look, I'm grown up now. I can call you Judy, right? But, ladies and gentlemen, it has been an absolute honour for me to be here, and I love the fact that Rob couldn't be here and I could. Folks, for those of you that have put this ceremony together, can I thank you? It's indeed not an inconsequential thing for you to be able to do all that you need to do to get us to a point where we can celebrate with the greatest of respect and the dignity that's befitting the occasion. Max, thank you so much for outing me as a Nimbin boy, but it gave me a little bit of material and a bit of licence to talk to today. Thank you so much. Thank you. Congratulations, ladies and gentlemen, and enjoy your day.
I'm just going to wait till